All right. Well, the race to bear the flag for the NDC in the 2024 election is supposed to be underway from this weekend when they hold their delegates' congress. But it would appear that if one of the candidates has his way, and that's Dr. Kwabena Dufour, it will not happen this weekend. They have filed an injunction against the proceedings in court. The hearing on the injunction will be held on Monday. However, the eternal question of injunctions has been raised again. Does it apply now? Does it apply after the hearing? And all of that business. Well, let's find out how the two sides of the coin see this matter. Kofi Kukubo is the head of research for Dr. Kwabena Dufour's campaign team. And Abraham Amaliba is Director of Legal Affairs for the NDC. Gentlemen, good morning. Thank you for your time.
Good morning. You're a bit faint.
All right, then. Why don't we start with you, Mr. Kukubo? What is your expectation now that you've filed the injunction? That the Congress will not go ahead? Or do you expect that matter to be resolved at the hearing?
We are only seeking for credible voter register that will ensure free and fair elections. That's our primary objective.
Right.
Okay, so now, let's look at your primary objective. Do I get the impression that if today the party were to deliver on what you would consider as a credible voters register, you're prepared to withdraw everything and the elections go ahead on Saturday?
Because that's our objective. Once we are guaranteed that, we are ready to roll.
Right. So walk us through the issue. What exactly is the problem with the register from your perspective?
It is incomplete. We have 275 constituencies. We have only 220 constituencies. Voters register or photo album submitted. And that was even confirmed by the Mustafa Band, the Deputy General Secretary, yesterday. On your station yesterday. He was trying to use some percentages that were completed. And the fact is that he did not mention 100% complete. So therefore, that point itself is already established that the National Democratic Congress and the Elections Committee has established the fact that the voter register, as of today, is not complete. And nobody goes into an election with any complete register. Otherwise, you are going to deny a lot of people their voting right to elect their rightful person, the person they feel should represent them as a flag bearer.
Well, with the amount of time you have left to the event, is it realistic for the party to deliver on your concerns?
Well, we are even yet to have any official response from the party, so we don't know. I cannot speak of realistic now because we do not even have any response from the party.
Why did your side wait, till the very last minute before filing this injunction?
How do we know that we have incomplete register? It was only on the 4th of May that we were given the 220 constituencies voters register or photo album. So it is only based on that we discovered that as of that time, 4th of May, the full complement of the register is not ready.
Mr. Amalba, with your appreciation of the issues, what options does the party have at this point regarding whether or not to go ahead this weekend?
Let me first describe the writ, that it is frivolous, vexatious, and an attempt calculated to thwart the effort of the party in organizing these elections. Why am I saying this? This election is governed by rules and regulations. The rules or the regulations governing these elections do not talk about photo album for God's sake. It talks about delegates list. Why are they silent on the delegates list? Because the regulation says that after the voting, the delegates list must be made available to the aspirants. This delegate list was made available to the aspirants way back in March. This photo album that they are talking about is something that the party decided to introduce to enhance the fairness of the elections. Now, there have been series of meetings. There was a meeting last Thursday, meeting on Monday. There was supposed to be another meeting yesterday, and then they ran to court. Like you rightly indicated, the photo album, the number of photo albums that were completed were around 240 something. Yesterday, if they had attended that meeting, which we were expecting them to come and not to go to court, the full complement of that photo albums will be made available to them. So, what is my submission? My submission is that we are regulated by rules. We have not flouted any of the regulations. And the regulation says that provide delegates list. Has that been provided? The answer is yes. When was it done? Way back in March.
All right. So at this point, I mean, the hearing is not until Monday, but there are some schools of thought that suggest that since the injunction has been filed, you are stopped from proceeding this weekend.
Within the rules, we are exploring all avenues within the rules to ensure that this matter is dealt with before Saturday. So we are within the rules of court. We are trying to explore avenues to ensure that this happens so that the elections can go on Saturday.
What avenues exist?
No, I will not do that. It's a strategy. But we are doing that within the confines of the law.
But Mr. Amalba, you've heard Kofi Kukubo say, if their concerns are resolved today, the elections can go on. So is that not an option? You are a lawyer.
You are running away from meetings.
Kofi
You are
Kukubo.
running away.
Hold on a second. Kofi Kukubo. Kofi.
There was supposed to be a meeting
Let me
yesterday.
state emphatically that since Monday, 8th of May, when a meeting was called purposely to deliver the remainder of the 47 primary constituencies that they promised on the 4th of May, we were there. Even the remainder 47 was not the constituencies photo album, voter register was not delivered to us because the 220 that was submitted to us on the 4th of May, when we did our initial assessment, we discovered a lot of inaccuracies, and we presented it to them on Monday 8th. That anyway, as we are coming in for the remainder 47 that you have promised, the ones that you have already given us, these are the inaccuracies that we have discovered. Then they say once we queried the 220, then they cannot submit the remainder 47 constituencies to us. So it was not delivered. So they promised that they will go and have a look with the technical people to examine what we presented and get back to us. What day, what month, what time, it was not given. He was talking about a meeting yesterday.
Yes.
Nobody, as we speak now, nobody, no executive, no election committee member has officially or unofficially responded to our request that we presented to them. We were not called for any other meeting since Monday, 8th of May. Mustafa Bande made a very important statement which must not be ignored. It must be respected. He says that the purpose of the photo album, which is a voter register, because that is what they'll be using on the day of election, is to ensure free and fair election. And the request of the Tatakobando Force campaigning team is that the current document that you want to use to ensure free and fair election is incomplete and it is inaccurate. So I think they are saying the same thing.
Okay.
So I don't know where you say it's mischievous, fraudulent, and the rest. I don't know where it's coming from.
So hold on a minute.
Stated emphatically on your station.
Let me just find out from Abraham Amaliba. So, Mr. Amaliba, what meeting did you have yesterday?
We didn't have any meeting yesterday. Nobody invited us to any meeting.
Yes, but just hold on. Let me find out from Abraham Amalaba the meeting they had yesterday. I want to establish something.
All right.
Mr. Amalaba, what meeting did you have yesterday?
Now, let me repeat. There was a meeting on Thursday last week. There was a meeting on Monday. And there was supposed to be a meeting yesterday.
What is that meeting that was supposed to be held yesterday?
Good. So you now know that no meeting took place, but
Yes.
they did because they didn't come. This meeting was to resolve their concerns or to look into their concerns. We've done this before. 4 years ago.
Did you
when
write
6
to
people were
inform them?
contesting- when
Did you
6 people
inform
were
them of the
contesting-
meeting?
Hello?
Did you inform them of the meeting?
Yes.
How did you inform them?
We called them. We called them on phone. Even when on the vetting, we had to call them on phone to come.
This is very easy to cross-check. They should just bring their phone call.
So-
Let's call the call log.
Kofi, please hold on. Let me ask the question. So, Abraham Amalaba, who did you call from the before team?
Be cross-checked. Who did they call
Can
at
I
what time?
talk?
The call log will prove that.
Mr. Kukubo, if you can just allow us to do the questioning. Mr. Amalaba, can you just tell us who did you call in the before team?
Yesterday, I cross-checked from one of the committee members, that's the election committee members, by name Mahdi. And he indicated to me that they have invited them to come. As to who they called, it's not within my place. I'm a lawyer. I won't be asking whom did you call. So, according to Mahdi, who is a member of the elections committee member, they were at that time they were waiting for them to come over, only for us to be slapped with the service of a rate around 5:45 to 6 in the evening, and that came to us as a surprise. So, Mahdi, who indicated to me that they've been invited by phone, indicated to me again that they hadn't responded, and it means that the meeting will not come on.
Now that they're challenging the call, wouldn't it be important to state, for instance, whom you called, so that we can all find out whether that person indeed received a call?
I'm saying that when we get there, the elections committee would deal with that and indicate to us who they placed the call to, who in their camp they placed the call to. Because they had called them to attend last Thursday meeting they attended, I think so. They called them to attend meeting on Monday. I'm sure they attended. And again, the same process was used for yesterday. So when we get there, the party committee members will indicate.
When you say when we get there, when you get where?
No, if that's an issue in court, I'm speaking as a lawyer.
Okay.
So when the issue comes up in court, we'll find out who they place the call to.
And you're meeting them in court on the 15th?
I'm saying that, and let me reiterate, we are doing what we can to have this matter heard before 15th. You can just see the mindset. Why would you be placing or fixing the date beyond the 13th when you could actually do it within the week, when the date can be fixed within the week, so that we go deal with it and then we can proceed with our conference? So you can see the mindset. The mindset is to scuttle the processes ongoing for the elections.
Well, but they filed a case and the court is giving them a date. So where's the,
whose mindset
coming in here?
Hello?
Yeah, Mr. Amalaba, we're wondering whose mindset are you questioning? It's the court that set the date. But it's the court that set the date.
Say it again.
It is the court that set the date, is it not?
Well, you could also indicate to the registrar how urgent the matter is. And then they can give you a date which is favorable to all parties.
Okay, so going forward, you're going to find some way within the court rules to have this matter dealt with before the weekend. But if you are unable to do so, will the Congress be postponed?
That's a decision that will be taken by the party. But as a lawyer, I intend to ensure that the hearing of the application will not affect the elections on Saturday.
Right. I want to say a big thank you to both of you. Mr. Abraham Amaliba is the last voice you heard. He's the Director of Legal Affairs. And we have Mr. Kofi Kukubo. Did you want to make a quick rejoinder, Mr. Kukubo, before we wrap up?
Please.
Okay, please go ahead.
I'm happy that you asked that question. Who sets the date? Because they were trying to now make an attempt to incite the voters, the grassroots, against Dr. Kwabena Duffuor. It must be put on record that ensuring a credible register that will guarantee free and fair election is to the advantage of the grassroots and to the voters, because it is their right to elect the person that they feel is the right person to represent them. And that is what we are fighting for. We are fighting for the grassroots, that all of you who want to vote, your names must be in the register. You must be properly validated, that no person can come and impersonate you and vote on your behalf and make a decision that does not represent your collective right. That is what we are fighting for. So the fight we are fighting is for the interest of the grassroots. Who are the voters? They must be given that right to elect the person that they feel is qualified to represent them. That is the only way that we can rally the entire party behind that person to guarantee victory in 2024. Devoid of that, the party will be going to an election in 2024 as a disunited third party. We cannot guarantee victory. So what we are fighting for is for the interest of the party and for the interest of the grassroots who are going to vote to elect the rightful person. So that propaganda to incite the public against or the grassroots against us, it won't wash. I'm happy now this NDC is transforming. Even at the branches, we are having branch executives who are holding PhD, who are master's degree holders, who are first degree holders. So they are discerning. So I'm happy you asked that critical question for him as a lawyer, that we do not have any control over setting the date. It's the courts that set the date for hearing. So I just want to thank you and appeal to the grassroots that this fight is their fight. It's not only Dr. Kwabena Duffuor's fight.
Indeed, Kojo. The grassroots are livid at the action already. And if he's thinking that he's fighting for the grassroots, he should measure the temperature of the grassroots, and he will get to know that they are livid at that action.
Right. We'll put a pin in it at this point. Thank you both very much. Abraham Amaliba, Director of Legal Affairs, National Democratic Congress, NDC, and Mr. Kofi Kukubo, Head of Research for Dr. Duffuor's campaign team. Appreciate your time. All right, this is only the beginning. Today's conversation is all about the NDC's primaries, whenever they will be held, because the implications of the decisions made by these delegates are far-reaching and will make a very, very huge difference in December 2024. The future of the nation starts to be shaped by this Congress. I think we all have been looking forward to the 2024 elections. And in the build-up to that, the NDC, in 3 days' time, are supposed to have their presidential and parliamentary primaries. Now, the hopes of aspirants are high with the conviction of winning these elections. So today we're going to put a spotlight on the chances of the presidential aspirants, John Mahama, Kojo Bunsu, and Dr. Duffuor. And we will talk about what some people see to be the real election, the parliamentaries. So first, let's get a wrap of some reports that we've done on each candidate and their campaigns so far.
John Dramani Mahama is a household name, and although critics say the opposition party needs a new contender for the next presidential election, JM says he is unfazed but is rather focused on a simple rescue mission to secure victory for the opposition party in the 2024 general elections.
I am set and ready, very ready, to build the Ghana we want together with you.
But John Mahama as former leader of the party, has had a checkered political history. After leading the NDC to victory in 2012, he has failed on 2 consecutive occasions to win any election he's contested on the ticket of the NDC, having lost the last presidential election in 2020.
So a lot of things went wrong. We've done our postmortems. We realized that we have to go into the ring with our own referee. And so we're going to be much more vigilant than we were in the past.
But now his party is on the lookout for the next candidate to lead the NDC into the next general elections.
And so I have offered myself on May 13th.
John Mahama is facing stiff opposition from 2 individuals. First is Dr. Kwabena Dufo, former finance minister, and Mayor Kajobonsu, former mayor of Kumasi. Both contenders accuse John Mahama of derailing the gains made by the NDC.
Kajobonsu's wings is spread across the political, business and sporting arena. The founder and former publisher of the Ago magazine first nursed the ambition for the highest office of the land in 2018, when he declared his intention to contest as the party's president flagbearership role, but he would drop out ahead of the primaries. This time there is no backing down, and here is his reason.
God has given me good vision. I'm a visionary person. If you look at what I did at the National Sports Authority, what I did at Goa, what I did with Adidas, and what I've done with KMA as well. If I don't serve Ghanaians and I die, Ghana will miss a lot, because I believe I have a lot. If you check my track record, everything I touch is gold. So why don't I touch Ghana for Ghana to see gold?
The bookmakers tipped former President John Mahama to win the race. But Kajobonsu says the image of the former president is dented, corrupted, unattractive, and soiled. For him, the former president is a commodity that will be difficult to sell to floating voters.
They've said a lot of things. They've put corruption tag on him. They have a whole lot of things, like almost saying on PBB. They've said a whole lot of things against him. Like you can't even take it off. And that is where I feel very sad. The NPP has really soiled him. He doesn't stand a better chance.
The state of Ghana's economy remains a major concern to the man touted for his economic prowess. He comes into the race with a vast experience as a former governor of the Bank of Ghana and a former finance minister. He believes he can turn around the economy.
Every Ghanaian, no matter the birth of his or her circumstances, should have equal opportunity in our system to achieve whatever he or she wants to achieve. I'm not saying that. That dream will bring about prosperity and happiness.
He will face off with former President John Dramani Mahama in Kajobonsu. The Economist Intelligence Unit in its April 2023 country report on Ghana noted that the NDC can revitalize its prospect of electoral victory with a new candidate such as Dr. Kwabena Dufo. The former finance minister believes he stands a better chance.
I'll ask my colleagues to help me do that. No one person solves a problem. And no one person is big enough to do anything. That's why in the Bible, the Creator himself, when he was creating a man, said, let us create what? Let us. The Bible, the Lord never said, I. No, it said, let us.
Coffee in your cup and joy on the set. The Super Morning Show is always the best bet on Joy 99.7 FM. Coffee in your cup and joy on the set. The Super Morning Show is always the best bet on Joy 99.7 FM.
Yeah, the late Joel Aka, Anyway, listen, we've got a lot to talk about. Lots and lots to talk about. It's the biggest opposition party in the country, and they are making another bid for power. It all starts, hopefully, court permitting, this weekend with their National Congress to choose their flag bearer and parliamentary candidates. Head of our political desk, Evans Mensah, joins us via Zoom. And, of course, right here in the studio, we have the deputy head of the political desk, Churchill himself. And we will be joined by Dr. Asante, who is a political analyst from University of Ghana, Legon. But Evans is already with us. Evans, good morning. Do we have Evans on the line? If you can unmute your mic for us. Hello, Evans. Right. Let's work to connect with Evans via Zoom. Can you hear us? You might have to unmute your microphone for us. Okay. All right. We'll connect to Evans shortly. But Winston, the big question, and it's a two-part question. The first one is John Mahama has foregone a conclusion as he's made to seem? And two, is that a good thing?
Well, Kojo, elections are such that at every point in time, you would know whether it's a contest or a no contest. And so there are times that, even what constitutes a contest is the percentage that someone wants to have in the election. And so if you are the NDC or if you're part of the John Mahama team, you would want to make a case. And how do you make your case? You make your case by getting 95, 98, 99% to say, look, in the party, I am the person. I am the man to beat in the party. This election, based on all the analysis, I don't see anybody beating John Mahama. I guess for many of the contestants, the case really is what percentage of votes they can gain. And for a lot of us also as watchers and analysts, it would be what can they take off John Mahama and what that would mean for John Mahama. Let me answer that. I mean, I'll come back to address this later on because it's just, I see this as a preliminary comment that I'm making.
Right, yes.
So then let me address the second leg of your question.
Is it a good thing?
Well, you have to look at it from different perspectives. You, first of all, could probably say, okay, if we're going into an election with a candidate who is very formidable, and that candidate has the total support of the party, that's fantastic. It means the party is united around one candidate. So that's it. We have to go with that candidate. If you're also going into an election with a candidate who's never been president before, and you have the party united around that person, you would say, this is the guy to deliver 2 terms for us. Now, if you also have a candidate who's been president before, and who is seeking, to come back again after he's lost an election, you then would have to pause and ask yourself a question, is this the best candidate for us? But then you also ask yourself, who's the alternative? And has anyone put himself up for election apart from this man? Now, that's where the NDC finds itself today. Okay, so you're looking at John Mahama, you're looking at, Dr. Kwabena Dufo, and you're looking at Kojo Bonsu. You ask yourself, of these 3, who's your best bet to win election 2024? Are you going to present, Dr. Kwabena Dufo in the elections in 2024, or maybe you're going to be presenting, Kojo Bonsu? Campaigns are run by, legacies or run on track records. So today, will the NDC run its election campaign based on a track record? The answer is yes. Whose track record is the NDC going to run their campaign on in 2024? Look, they'll look at their track record, compare it with the NPP's, and say, look, even with limited resources and limited funds, this is what we were able to achieve. Even with limited funds, we built this for you, we built that for you. Now, we were accused of being corrupt. Have you seen what is happening currently? Now, if you have that person in the race, then you say, if he wants to be president, why do you sidestep him and give it to another person? Let me also make the other point, before I come into all the figures and everything, let me also make another point. The challenge the NDC is facing today is that if John Mahama wants to be president, because of the support he enjoys within the party, if you don't help him to become president, and mind you, he has only 1 term, all of you won't be president. Because if you don't let him become president, and he decides to contest,
and keep contesting,
he will beat you. So, in your own interest, you do like the NPP did in 2016 with Akufo-Addo. They did everything to get Akufo-Addo to become president, and end of it. Because, watch this, if Akufo-Addo had not won in 2016, he would have told you that, Mahama has done his 2 terms, let me come back again and come around in 2020. Okay? So now, the NDC, for many of them, have a chance to, for once and for all, get John Mahama to serve his 2nd term and then leave the scene for another person.
Well, those are certainly concerns of the party, and you have to put them against concerns of the nation. Evans joins us now. Evans, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes. Unfortunately, I'm told that the Zoom it has a challenge. But if you can hear me all right on the phone.
Absolutely, yes. We can hear you quite clearly. Good morning. Thanks for making the time. So Evans, I think I want to hear you on the same question, okay? The Economic Intelligence Unit has actually said that they reckon NDC has a better chance with a candidate like Dr. Dufour. The question I'm asking is this: is Mahama has foregone a conclusion, as everybody says? And if he is that actually a good thing for the party?
Well, it's a foregone conclusion that he's winning the primaries. That there's no doubt about it. The question really becomes, by what margin? And that is where this whole Kwamna Dufour controversy that you've talked about this morning emanates from. There's a view among the ranks of Kwamna Dufour and we shouldn't dress it up in any other way. Kwamna Dufour is not winning the primary. And I think he knows that he's not winning the primary. But of course, he won't say that to you. I mean, Winston and I, we know he's not winning the primary. However, he is looking at how well do I perform even in defeat. That will show, and remember the campaign that the sound bites we played, all the candidates have said, well, Mahama is a damaged good. The MPP has managed to tag him as incompetent, as corrupt, etc. That if you present him to the national elections, you are going to struggle. And the EIU analysis confirmed that. That becomes even more exponentially accentuated if he wins the primary, but with a margin of victory that is not as emphatic as he wants. John Mahama needs an emphatic victory in the primary to prove to the party that he has absolute control of the more than 300,000 delegates and that they believe in him. Anything shy of an emphatic victory poses a challenge for him going into the elections. The MPP will use it, that even among your own ranks, you are not as popular. That is what Dr. Kwamna Dufour is seeking to do here. How many votes can I take away from John Mahama? And Kojo Bonsu will make the same argument. He needs something in the region of 90% and above to really make the argument that he is as popular and this party is his as we all believe it is, and that he has a total and absolute control of the party as much as he believes he has. That is what this game is about. And if you talk to Kwamna Dufour guys who are around him, the argument is they believe there's some orchestration in the party to deliver that overwhelming victory for John Mahama. So that, you remember, these are optics as well. And the bandwagon effect is important. If John Mahama secures anything above 95% among the delegates of 300,000, then you could make the argument to the wider, voter population. Now, you see what the delegates, 300,000 people, a lot of them Ghanaians, party full soldiers, believe unequivocally that he has what it takes to have a second term. That is where the issue is. Kwamna Dufour is not, I believe, and it's clear, anybody who says he's going to win the elections, everybody knows that is not going to happen. That is where the trouble is. So it's a foregone conclusion he's going to win. The question is how much? What is the margin that he's winning by? Considering that he has a history. He's going to run on his own track record. And the NDC, MPP understands John Mahama. They have figured him out. And they will use those same tricks in addition to the outcome of this particular primary against him in the 2024 elections. That is where the controversy is, and that is why the party, or at least Dufour's can't believe that something is happening to try and grant and give this, John Mahama this overwhelming victory. Is it good for the NDC that it is a foregone conclusion? The truth is, John Mahama, as we speak right now, is the most marketed of the three who are seeking to lead the NDC. So if you're going into an election and he has one outstanding term to go, many will argue in terms of selling a candidate, he is a person easy to market. But then you have Dr. Kwamna Dufour, who many will say, well, he's coming into this election also on his own track record. He was also a finance minister once. So what is his own track record? Yes, he wasn't the finance, he wasn't the president, he wasn't the end, he wasn't the final voice when he was. He served under, John Mills. And he has been careful to try and claim that when this economy experienced a 14% growth rate, the fastest growing economy in the world, it was under his leadership. And he's claimed that as his. John Mahama has also argued, at that time when you were claiming that, I was the chair of the economic management team. So who should claim that particular glory? And they also say it is me. So both of them are running on their own track records. Which of these two track records will stand scrutiny in the eyes of the electorate when it comes down to the elections? And that is the question that they will have to answer. Whether or not the presumptive nomination of John Mahama serves them in the long term in the national elections, or you give it to somebody else in Dufour, whose track record as a finance minister he claims is impeccable.
Now, Mahama must run on his own track record. That's something that you've said. Winston has said it too. Now, how does the voter, the one who will have to decide in 2024, see that track record? And would they have preferred the NDC to come forward with someone with less baggage?
I believe so. I believe the voter would respond more favorably, more kindly in the polls to somebody with a track record that hasn't got serious question marks. John Mahama himself admits he made mistakes. When he began this journey to rehabilitate himself, which is what it's been, after the 2016 elections, he has had a few public events where he's had to confront his demons, the demons that haunted him when he was the president for those 4 years that he was in charge. And I don't want to belabor the point. There were so many demons that he had to confront. After 2016, when he lost that historic margin of defeat, he's been on this journey to rehabilitate. He's done a good job at attempting to rehabilitate, but he has been helped by the last 7 years of this MPP administration. A lot of things have gone so wrong. The many reports of corruption perception not helping. The economy facing a historic crisis in a generation that we've not seen before. That has helped him in his rehabilitation process. How far along that rehabilitation process is he? Going into 2024 to convince the electorate that this is a reformed John Mahama who has learned his lessons and is ready to apply those lessons if he wins the elections to deliver a far more excellent government if he forms it. That for me is a big question. And voters will have to make a decision. Have we seen enough John Mahama post-2016 to convince us that he's learned his lesson? But then they have to also compare that with the alternative, which is the MPP. Whoever the MPP also elects, they have to make that comparison at that point to look at the alternative. The John Mahama also has his own baggage. Whoever MPP elects will also come with some form of baggage as well. Which of these two, choices best serves us in terms of going forward? Who can come to the table with lessons learned to transform the way we govern our country? And then Koblan Dufo will also have to be put in that same bracket in making the analysis.
Right. Evan, stay with us. Winston, Mahama's campaign so far, the one who, seems the foregone conclusion, his campaign so far has largely been, message-free, if you will. We haven't seen so much of what he intends to do specifically if he were to be given the mandate again. What we have seen are some clever sound bites and some very spot-on, impersonations of his political opponents, mixed with one or two rather odd, controversial comments like what he intends to do with the Galamseyers, if they come back to power and so forth. Do you think he has done enough for a delegate with a free conscience to say this is the best choice for us?
Well, I mean, before I answer that question, I'm going to, do it this way. I'll ask you a question, a very simple question. I don't know if you've monitored, any political party, internal election. If you have, all you need is the delegates to vote for you. Recently you've seen, let me just use this, you've seen Alan Tremantin and co, try to change the narrative by focusing on his plan. The idea is different. The idea is that this is what I want to do, and this is what Ghanaians have bought into. So why don't you look at this and vote for me, even at the NPP level? Because out there, the long and short is I want to win elections. For Mahama, his first hurdle is to win the NDC primaries. In all the campaigning that he's done, you probably may have heard him say, for instance, that because of how these people have mismanaged the economy, he's talking about the fact that, they've mismanaged the economy in a way that we have to come and salvage the economy. He's trying to tell you that we are the government in waiting. He's been talking about some of the promises he made in the past, in the 2020 election, some of the things that he said he was going to do. He's been talking about job creation and everything. But also as he talks about job creation, he's been talking about how he intends to consider, his party, members. And, nationally we probably may have a problem and say, jobs should be based on competence. But political party-wise, that's what they want to hear. That's what they want to hear. And so today, if you were to try to assess Mahama based on what he's saying, you probably could get it wrong because post the primaries, his narrative may change. His narrative may change because then he's talking to the larger Ghanaian population and no longer, his party. That's why he's going around that way. Because look, and I've monitored campaigns, for years. I've heard political party, I've heard aspirants say, when we win, the women organizer will be the school feeding coordinator. When we win, the youth organizer will be the national youth, employment agency coordinator. And you saw that happening actually with Nana Akufo-Addo when, after the victory in 2016, a lot of the regional chairmen became regional ministers, right? And constituency chairman became MMDCE. So clearly, Mahama had been blamed at the time, and you probably, if you were to speak to a lot of the NDC people, they will tell you, you made mistake in the past. When we supported you, you ended up not helping us. So his role today is to be going around assuring the people. And that's the first, the first factor in wanting to win an election. And I'll explain. People are going to be your agents. People are going to go out there to campaign for you. Politics in Ghana is what is in it for me, and all over the world, really. While others may look at it, all over the world is what's in it for me. And while others may look at what is in it for us as a country, some of us in Ghana, some people in Ghana will look at what is in it for me by way of my pocket. So the question is, if you are a political party agent, what is it that you're looking out for? You're looking out for that person who comes and says, you are going to be the kingmaker. And so he's just making these points to actually get them. Post the primaries on Saturday, if it's held on Saturday, you will realize that his narrative will change. He now would begin a conversation nationally. That's if he really wants to win election, because you cannot be talking about, giving jobs to your party members. You don't only need your party members to win an election.
Right. Evans, Winston makes the point that, look, up until the end of Congress, the conversation is between the aspirants and the delegates. The rest of the country, we are just eavesdropping. But the conversation is between those two parties. How do you assess the three aspirants in how they have conducted this conversation so far? How do you think they have appealed to these delegates?
Well, but it's interesting. I listened to the campaign so far, and almost all the aspirants, the three of them, they are campaigning on the bigger national issues. Mostly. The economy has featured very strongly in their campaigns. John Mahama was on a campaign trail in the northern. Let's take the very recent comment that we've all monitored in the northern region 2 days ago, and that's where he talks about amending the constitution so if you're a dual citizen, you can hold public office here. And he's been quite creative at looking at national issues that resonate with the delegates. So that issue is a national issue, right? Because we know there is a private members motion, private members bill that is actually being started by an MPP MP The Council of State has already begun the process to, attach a certain advice to this going forward. It is a national conversation that has been had for a while. But if you bring in the James Achikwe element, it becomes relevant to the delegates. Because this is a colleague, comrade, who represents a constituency, who has now been denied a seat in Parliament for so long because its case is still in abeyance before the Supreme Court, and so can't go. So if you are an NDC loyalist and activist and a delegate, you are hurt by that. You are hurt that your numbers in Parliament has been reduced by one. And so you are aggrieved. So you have the siege mentality. And so you hear John Mahama makes the point that the judiciary has been manipulated to get James Achikwe. He is appealing to that sense of injustice that the delegates feel because of James Achikwe's predicament. But in doing that, he's also talking about a bigger national issue that we've been debating for a while. And then he talks about the economy. A lot of them have been focused on the economy because the economy is resonating. The economy is affecting you, it's affecting me, Kojo. But it's also equally affecting the delegates. The 300,000 delegates are also affected by this. So and again, it is important why all of them have found this way of addressing delegates on issues that affect them, but also have a national character. Because you must be delicate, right? The delegates, they don't only want to vote for an individual who will represent their NDC interests, but they also want a presidential candidate who can win the elections for them next year. Right? And if you really ask me, if the delegates are being nuanced enough, and the delegates now are very, very sensitive, and they show a certain astuteness in the political calculations they make, then the overall objective of voting for somebody who can win you the main election should be paramount. So the candidate's ability to figure out how to tailor-make a message that will address the individual selfish needs of an NDC delegate, but also signal to that delegate that I can also deal with the national issues is important. And that is why we've seen all the candidates, all of them, all the aspirants, making these, talking about making promises to the... And by the way, I think really if you come there, that is where Dufour attempted to distinguish himself with this Ahuto initiative that he began, well before he even launched his campaign.
Yes, but you see...
And that Ahuto initiative was designed to deal with the very specific grassroots concerns of the NDC foot soldier. Many of them are also delegates. By designing this structure, where he was putting his own resources, thousands and thousands and millions of cedis, into funding the branches. And he's been talking about that for so long, trying to address that particular delegate selfish NDC concern over the time. And he's been consistent with that, whilst also dealing with the national issues. Great. And I believe that's what he distinguishes. If you listen to John Mahama, he talks a lot about the big national issues. And yesterday, I was asking Joyce Baramotari, who is a spokesperson for John Mahama, that I have observed in analyzing his message, that he's almost talking about issues as if he is, of course, the candidate. He has been given the nod already by the delegates, and is already dealing with the big national issues. And he says, well, yes, you want somebody who would also be not only a representative and a leader of the delegates, but show that he can become president. And he's a former president. So what do you expect him to say?
But you see,
the delegates will make a decision.
Yeah,
which of these
Evans,
two approaches serves their interest first.
Great. But you see, Evans, the point is this. While you say touching on the economy is touching on national issues, of course, we're all feeling, the pain this time around. If you listen to the solutions Mahama is proffering, you'd agree with me that a lot of these solutions that he's proffering are solutions that are delegate-based and centered, right? For instance, in one of the soundbites, he talks about how if they are recruiting people into the security services, the police, immigration, prison service, they also would get their polling station, your branch executives and their relatives. I'm sure you've heard that, right, Evans?
In fact, of course. That's a conversation I had on PMS
yesterday. Now, this is actually, while he's talking about employment, he's talking about hardships, he's actually proffering a delegate-centered solution. So, yes, he's talking about it, but the solutions are delegate-centered solutions. So, for instance, when he says today, and I think he was making reference to fertilizer. Today, fertilizer prices are high, 800 Ghana cedis. You cannot buy. So many of you cannot even go to the farms. But promising that when we come would, help you with loans and all of things to be able to farm. These are delegate-centered solutions. Okay, you may say yes by virtue of talking by the reason that you talk about the national problems. You're giving us national policies. But I say the solutions you propose are delegate-centered. Yes, he's talked. So if the solutions you're proposing are delegate-centered, I would reclassify them and say, yes, you may have touched on national issues here and there, but because you're talking about delegates, a lot of the solutions you're proposing are delegate-centered solutions because you want them to go out there to vote for you. The James Jachekwesin case, of course, at this point in time, and I'd say this, look, even with the current parliamentary primaries of the NDC, anybody who wanted to contest and had dual citizenship, as part of the party's vetting process, they had to ensure that you renounce that citizenship and you have a certificate to show before you are able to contest. They won't even let you contest and say that after the elections, go and renounce it like it did it in the past, because they have learned lessons from that. So again, that I agree, Mahama would want to, take advantage of that. But in an internal election, for all the delegates, and particularly for Mahama, because in the past he had been accused of neglecting his own party members. And they've actually used the Akufo-Addo example to say, have you seen what Akufo-Addo has done? Have you seen what the NPP has done? You wait and let us get into office. If we are lucky and we get into office again, and you do Father for all. So you can see that kind of approach in all of his dealings, assuring the party. He will talk about all of these things. And also it's a very nice way of sometimes when you talk about the hardships in the country and all the things that happen in the country, it's a nice way of telling the people also that, look, these were people who said they were going to do better than I did. But the evidence on the ground suggests that I did better than them. And so in effect, if you're looking for any candidate, you'd have to look at me. Yes, Dufour started this whole Ahota project. But again, the Ahota project is, aimed at NDC delegates. Okay, he's talking about the national issues, he's talking about the economy and everything. But if you hear Dufour make the point that let's look at the economy, 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 really, what is Dufour saying I am going to do?
Okay, listen, our guest, Evans Mensah, is funny calling Evans a guest. He's Evans. But he joins us right now, head of our political desk, which is undoubtedly the most capable political team in broadcasting here in Ghana right now. And of course, their deputy head is Winston. So if you've been with us so far, we've talked about the presidential candidates. We've explored the fact that it seems John Mahama is a foregone conclusion. We've asked the question whether that is actually a good thing for the NDC and how things will gear up in the 2024 elections. But now, let's pay a bit of attention to Parliament. Evans, for many reasons, this parliamentary race is likely to be the most important one in the history of the NDC. And it appears to be sporting lots and lots of brand new faces. In fact, before we go to Evans, the brand new faces especially is something I want to hear about from you, Winston.
Well, Coach, a lot of things do happen in politics. But let me just say that when you've been in a position for 8 years, the assumption is that you're going to be in power. And if you're a political party that has 137 members of parliament, now 136, out of the 275, even in opposition, there's a departure from a lot of things that we're seeing in our part of the world. And so it gives you the impression that, look, you're definitely going to be able to win the next election. And the NDC in 2020, in fact, on the 8th of November in Yendi at the time, John Dramani Mahama was very categorical when he said they were going to win the parliamentary elections. He wasn't that categorical with the presidential elections. But it tells you one thing. It tells you that today, for the NDC has become attractive to a lot of people. They see that there's an opportunity for them to make a case, and there's every likelihood that, you know, if the NDC wins and if they contribute towards the party's success in the election, they could be rewarded with a deputy ministerial position or maybe a ministerial position. But having said that also, Kojo, you know that we normally do have election eve conversations. And so this Friday at between 8 p.m. to 10 p.m., we're going to do the real analysis on the parliamentary elections. You can't miss that, okay? You need to come in there. We'll tell you the dynamics in the key constituencies. We'll tell you the constituencies to watch and the dynamics in there, the trends in there, who's likely to win, who's likely to lose, and who would not perform at all. Okay, some are contenders, some are pretenders. You know, maybe you do a say it right on that one of these. You know, some are contenders, some are pretenders. A lot of pretenders in our political landscape. People who clearly know that they won't do anything in elections. I mean, they just show up there to say once upon a time I also contested. We'll tell you about all of those persons on Friday night. But the parliamentary election, you're right, is the main election when it comes to the NDC's Congress.
Absolutely. Now, Evans, same issue, brand new faces, but very critical decisions to be made by delegates on who represents them in the parliamentary battles of 2024.
Yes, and that's where the excitement is. As we've already said, that's for the presidential. John Mahama will win it. The only thing we are watching is what's the margin? What's the margin of victory? And that's where all this fight, you know, Commander 4 comes to play. So the parliamentary is where the real deal is. And by the way, even before Friday, as Winston has said, and by the way, if you're listening to us, you don't want to miss that election eve special 2-hour coverage and analysis session we're going to be rolling out from 8 to 10 p.m. because we're going to be dissecting this. Evidence-based, by the way. You see the graphs, you see the analysis, we're drilling down to tell a story. But before that, there are few constituencies for me that are very exciting. The first one on my list is Setra Farmplains in the Ashanti region. Oh, God, that constituency is going to be exciting. It is one of the 4 constituencies in the Ashanti region that the NDC has an incumbent member of parliament. It's one of the few seats in there in this stronghold of the MPP where the NDC have managed to win year on year, same as Awase. But that's the place where you have Dr. Kwabena Dufour's son contesting. And then you have an incumbent, Alexander, who has held on to that seat for at least the last 3 elections. And then you also have another relative of one of the aspirants also contesting in there. Dr. Kwabena Dufour and his son, Dr. Kwabena Dufour Sr. and Dr. Kwabena Dufour Jr. will all be on the ballot that day. And of course, you have an incumbent in there also that's also going to challenge. I'm looking forward to how that plays out. It's going to be very interesting. And there's a family feud that is also going to be brewing because there are 2 relatives also contesting. I'm looking forward to that. And then I'm looking forward to the contest that we will see in Ayawaso West Wagon. And I know this is the one that Kojo Yangsing is looking forward to the most. you have John Dumelo and his former best man going to slag it out. And by the way, we still don't have clarity on whether or not the Greater Accra election committee have now vetted and cleared all the aspirants to go. I think we need to get that clarity.
Evans, that one is on hold.
Because the last time I spoke with the party's arrowhead when it comes to organized elections in Greater Accra, that was one thing that was outstanding. So even today, we still don't have clarity. That tells you there's a lot going to happen in Ayawaso West Oregon between those 2 very good friends, 2 actors also going head to head. And I'm really looking forward to that dynamic. And Adenta is also one place. Nana Oye Bampoado is also standing, trying to unseat the Ramadan as I think that's also going to be a very interesting race also to watch. And then you go to the Volta region. There are a few interesting, contests coming up. Keta is interesting because you have an incumbent there who is now being challenged by a man who, and I must admit, and could you possibly know this better than I am, Kudu Jones shot to prominence for me after a wedding. But apparently, from all the things I've watched, he's been nursing that constituency for a while and pumping a lot of money into digging boreholes, etc. And the key question is whether his fame will come to play to help him out.
Yeah.
And then, oh boy, all the many professionals who have crossed over from academia, from from the health sector. I mean, doctors, our good friend Titus Bayu and others who are all joining the race. Oh, and I forgot in Central Farm Place you have Professor Brenya. Professor Brenya, who used to be, well, he still is actually. He's a political science lecturer at KNUST.
Yeah.
Who we've been speaking to as an expert and as a neutral analyst on political issues. He's also contesting in that particular constituency as well. So you begin to see that there's a lot of dynamics that will play in interesting characters, and there will be a few upsets, I guess, that we are looking forward to.
Yeah. And that last candidate, that last aspirant you mentioned, raising the issue of whether it's those who can't do who teach, or whether those who can teach can also do, right?
Well, I mean, to be very honest with you, politics is a very totally different game. When you get onto the grounds, you'd appreciate it. But Kojo, look, on Friday, I wouldn't say much. There are a lot of constituencies out there. We've done the scoping and everything, and the dynamics would shock you. Look, Evans has talked about Adenta. When we begin to get into the Adenta constituency, for instance, it would shock you. And when we get into constituencies such as Ningo Pram Pram, you will be shocked also. What happens in Ningo Pram Pram. Shayo Sudoku. Shayo Sudoku. It's one of the constituencies you'll be interested in knowing what happens in there. And a lot of things are going to be happening on Friday. But I'll just give you something about Adenta. In 2004, that was when the constituency was created. It was won by the NPP. In 2008, the NDC won through Kojo Edu-Asare. Now, Kojo Edu-Asare contested the primaries of 2012. Guess what? He lost. Kojo Edu-Asare had 17 votes. He didn't come back. Then Emmanuel Ashimor became the parliamentary candidate, and he won that election. Emmanuel Ashimor decides to seek re-election. Guess what? He loses. Who becomes the parliamentary candidate? Mohammed Abu Ramadan. He lost that, national election the first time. And then he won it the second time. He's seeking to become the parliamentary candidate of the NDC again and seek a second term in office. Watch the trend. Every sitting member of parliament of the NDC has lost his primaries.
Loses in Adenta.
Every sitting member of parliament of the NDC loses his primaries.
I think it just shows that Adenta is, the typical Adenta voter is a difficult customer to please.
Good. So what is going to happen on Saturday is what you're going to be told Friday night. That's just Adenta.
Yeah.
We don't want to go into the rest of the constituencies. Like our people say, agree me wait.
So stay tuned and make sure you do not miss election headquarters on Friday night. The analysis of the parliamentary primaries of the NDC is going to be lit. You guys need to make a date. But look, let's wrap with this. The whole thing is now in jeopardy because of an injunction being sought by Dr. Dufour's camp. Now, Evans, I wonder, we obviously cannot preempt what will happen in court. But as things stand right now, exactly how much jeopardy is the parliamentary primaries in? How likely are they to be held this weekend?
I think it will be held. I think it will be. I doubt very much. There's a part of me that says One, because the injunction, this is just an application. It hasn't been granted yet. The party is seeking to hear it early. I believe, and this is where often what tends to happen is party elders will get involved, calls will be made. I'm pretty sure already Dr. Konadifo has been bombarded with all manner of calls from all quarters to try and get him to back down. I think between now and Friday, or between now and Saturday morning, they'll find some resolution to this particular problem. But here's the big one. It is what the Electoral Commission does that poses the biggest challenge. Because the Electoral Commission must supervise elections. They must supervise the entire election. Without the Electoral Commission, this is not happening. Will the Electoral Commission take the view that because this application is pending and in case they don't get it head early and resolve this legal issue, would they take the view that this amounts to an injunction until it is decided, that they are stopped from proceeding until this? If the EC takes that view and withdraw from supervising elections, that for me is the biggest jeopardy. There's the biggest threat to this. Not within the NDC. I think the NDC will find a way to resolve this. But how the EC interprets this will be the big challenge.
You see, and that's where the problem starts from. Okay, now the EC. Will the EC decide to? If the EC were to decide today, we will not supervise the election. Well, maybe the NDC can say we'll arrange our own way and supervise the election, and then go to court on Monday and say we've done the election already, and then fight whichever process
but that would be legal. The law requires the EC to hold and supervise elections.
Yes, but you see, but Evans, wait. When I finish, you'll understand. Do you know in the Achim area, there was Asante Achim, north or central, in one of the constituencies, they served the Electoral Commission, and the MPP went ahead and conducted elections. They will conduct the elections.
Yeah, but that's true, except that became a subject of a legal challenge.
Eventually, the parties found ways of dealing with it. The parties will find ways of dealing with it. Today, the reality is that the courts sometimes are even reluctant to get into political party cases. They tell you, go and solve it. But this is a nice way of making sure that, look, they address all the concerns. You've heard them say that if the concerns are addressed today, why not? They are prepared to withdraw, and then they will continue. If the concerns are not addressed, the Electoral Commission would interpret that to mean they cannot hold elections. The Electoral Commission. And they've done it before. Once they serve the Electoral Commission and they are part of the suits, they will not show up. They will tell you, solve your problems, come back to us, and we would come and do it for you. Okay? So that in itself becomes the other issue. But I think that the NDC can find a way around this. The other question is, can they address all the concerns between now and Friday? Maybe they can. Is the Dufour team willing at this point in time to engage the NDC? They say they are. Is the NDC also willing to engage the Dufour team? Well, that's a question we're seeking answers to. From Amaliba's position, looks like they may be willing, looks like they also think that these guys are engaged. I mean, you heard the point that Amaliba made. These guys are engaged in diabolic, things, just trying to thwart the election. We probably will meet them in court and deal with it. If they succeed in having the case heard before Saturday, bingo. If they don't, then it means they have to hold on and address the issue when it goes to court.
Listen, I want to thank you guys so much for bringing this whole matter to life the way you have. We really appreciate it. We can't wait for Friday and, of course, hopefully Saturday and beyond, if things go according to plan for the NDC and we do indeed witness their Congress. Until then, Evans Mensah, head of political desk, and, of course, Winston here, his deputy. We thank you both.